Before we get started, just a warning that today's episode talks about suicide prevention. Please be advised. From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Suicide among veterans. It's a tragic and persistent issue for the military community. And that's especially true in Colorado. According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, 178 veterans in Colorado died by suicide in 2022, the most recent year for which data is available. Colorado leaders recently created a pilot program called Next Chapter, aimed at lowering those statistics. It's based in El Paso County, which is home to many of the state's 370,000 veterans. And the evidence so far is hopeful. Supporters say Next Chapter has worked with about 1,200 veterans in its first 3 years and appears to be changing the way many Colorado veterans in crisis find support and treatment. Reporter Dahlia Singer recently wrote about the program for the Colorado Sun and Collective Colorado, which is a publication of the Colorado Trust. She joined me to talk about what makes Next Chapter so different from other programs aimed at helping veterans.
Colorado broadly, not even speaking about the veteran population, has unfortunately dealt with a higher than average suicide rate. And experts have kind of told me that some of that has to do with, Colorado was a pioneering, frontier state, and people really have that independent streak, that pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you can figure it out, which is very different than reaching out for help. Of course, a lot of Colorado is also rural, and there's just less access to care, and also potentially, a little more of that stigma and more of that perspective that you're supposed to be able to figure it out all on your own. Then the military just adds another layer, right? You think of military, you almost think of a synonym being tough, right? Strength.
Sure.
There's still, I think, a really strong perspective that if you tell your higher up you're struggling with, say, anxiety or depression, that you might lose your job or be shifted to something else or not be perceived as being able to do your job that is, very important to you.
Now, you spent time with a veteran named Heath Miller who has dealt with trauma and addiction and also the difficulty of accessing care. What did Heath share with you about why finding mental health care was so difficult?
I think for Heath, so he spent about 12 years in the Marine Corps and settled in Colorado Springs after he left. And I think for him, it was more about even knowing or feeling it was okay to access care. So he was one of those people who said therapy wasn't really on my radar. It wasn't something that I thought I could talk about. And he just kind of, unfortunately, through a series of situations that he found himself in, he ended up arrested. El Paso has a veterans trauma court. So it's kind of a diversion court for veterans who get involved with the criminal justice system and are dealing with trauma or substance use issues. And I think without that connection, I don't know that he would have, sought it out for himself. He would have struggled for longer with some of his addiction issues and kind of the fallout and other consequences of that.
Well, let's talk about how the Next Chapter program works. You describe it as a single point of contact for veterans who need help. Talk about what makes this so different from traditional programs geared toward vets.
Next Chapter is completely staffed by veterans, which means people who understand. Maybe they, served in a different time or but they get what you're going through and have a familiar language. It's also, I think one of the key things is that, as you mentioned, it's a one-stop shop. So you are not calling one place, calling your doctor, and they're saying, well, I think maybe you need to talk to a psychiatrist. And then you have to go find a psychiatrist and call them. And then you are dealing with, food insecurity, or you can't pay your rent, and now you're trying to find someone else to help with that. This is one place that there are therapists and people who can speak to you, but they also can connect you to the exact resources that you need. And those people have also been trained. They might be vets themselves. They might not. And if they're not, they've been trained in military cultural competency. So they know how to speak with you. They know some of where you're coming from. And so you start a step ahead. And they also kind of do these warm handoffs. So Next Chapter connects you or tells you this person's going to be calling you. And so there's less pressure on the veteran, on someone who's struggling, to have to make 6 different phone calls. Someone else will reach out, meet you on your timeline. There's just a lot of ways that they are trying to counter some of the access issues to mental health all in one, bubble, I guess.
Now, you interviewed a behavioral health clinical therapist named Leah Jackson for your story. Leah is also an Army veteran who had sought therapy for herself at one time. What did she share about how difficult it was to talk to someone who didn't have that shared military experience?
Yeah, I think Leah and other veterans, what you hear is that if people haven't served in the military, they just don't get it. So they might be asking questions that feel inappropriate. They just don't understand the trauma and things like that. And so you're doing a lot of explaining instead of spending that time on actual care. And so I think just starting at that equal footing of, okay, we have the same language. We might not have the exact same experience. We've been through some shared things makes a huge, huge difference for veterans.
We also hear about long wait times for healthcare with the VA. Does this program have better results?
So I don't think there's an apples to apples comparison stat out there. But for example, the wait time at 3 of the VA clinics in the Colorado Springs area in September was a minimum of 32 days.
Okay.
Next chapter, you're connected, you talk to someone right away. I mean, you can walk in their office, but you're also talking, sitting with what have you, a provider within 9 days, if not sooner. So, going from a month to say a week, I mean, that's a huge difference in someone who is really struggling, who maybe isn't putting food on the table, has kids, has the potential of their kid being taken away. So we know that makes a difference. Next chapter also has not seen any suicides among its clients. So that is a huge positive showing that this program is helping or doing something effectively.
Yeah, that's so significant. Well, I just want to circle back to Heath Miller, the veteran you talked to. How did this program change the recovery process for Heath, and how is he doing now?
So it was huge for Heath during his struggles. He lost custody of his 2 kids and he didn't live near family. And so every time he had to show up weekly in court, it was part of his kind of recovery process. Someone from Next Chapter was there with him, kind of acting as his family, as his support system. So that was huge, knowing there were these people in his corner. And Heath now has a great job. He's 4 years sober. He has custody of his kids again. They are living with him, and he is doing really well. He told me that he doesn't know if he would have ended up where he is now without Next Chapter. So it's great to hear. And, he shared his story because he wants other people to know that this help exists and also that it's okay to ask for help. Even someone with a 12-year plus career, in the Marines, like, it's okay for you to reach out and ask for help. And there are people there who will get you and who will help you.
Dahlia Singer reported on the Next Chapter program that works to reduce suicide among veterans in the Colorado Springs area. She mentioned that state lawmakers are working to put $5 million into expanding the program. We'll include a link where you can read more in our show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.